Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to Unit Lost. I am Stylosa, and today I'm going to give you the lowdown on all of the Overwatch League teams. Just which ones should you support? Which are the best? Which are the worst? I'm going to give you all of the details, guys. Now, I've been following Overwatch esports for a very long time, and this is a super exciting time for me because this is the start of the Overwatch League. But it dawned on me, there's loads of people out there who have no idea what these teams are, and honestly, I don't think Blizzard have been doing the best job when it comes to actually advertising these teams to the fan base. Hopefully, they'll start doing this more in the coming weeks or so. But whatever, in this video, I'm going to tell you who are categorically the best and who are the worst. Now, we got to watch the preseason in early December. This showed us some of the teams. However, this isn't actually the greatest way to sort of base the team's performance in the actual season because a lot of teams had players missing and all the teams were forced to use all of their players because Blizzard, for some reason, said that you've got to play all of your players. So it meant that certain teams might have been played in weaker states than they normally would be when the season comes around. Anyway, let's get stuck into this. So what I'm going to do is rate the teams from worst to best. I'm going to tell you who owns the team, where the team is based, so if you want to support them because they're your local team, then go for it. And then I'm going to give you a little bit of history about each team. So let's get stuck into this. Number 10, Florida Mayhem. Now, this league spot is owned by Ben Spunt. He is the CEO and co-founder of Misfits, which is an esports team. So this team isn't owned by any kind of crazy, massive company or anything like that. It's owned by an esports team. It's the smallest roster in the Overwatch League. It's only got 6 players, which is the bare minimum you're allowed, because obviously you need 6 players to play in Overwatch League. You're actually allowed 12, but they've only gone for 6. This is kind of strange. However, this is the old Misfits roster. They've just gone straight into Overwatch League. Now, this team actually came second in EU contenders in 2017. It came second to a team called Giganti, who, they didn't have an Overwatch League spot. Some of the Giganti players are in Overwatch League, but this Misfits team was expected to win, but they didn't. They kind of choked on LAN, and unfortunately, they kind of continued this trend when it came to Overwatch League pre-season. They lost every game, and the performances were honestly not great. I think they're going to have to pick up players in the first transfer window. They desperately need more players, and as I said, they woefully underperformed in pre-season. Their standout player is Tavik, but again, he struggled, and he seems to be struggling a lot. So I don't know about this team. It's really weak, and it's kind of sad that I'm putting this in slot 10, but I'm not really sure what else I can do. They're going to have to make additions and rapidly change the way they play. Number 9 is Boston Uprising. Now, this league spot is actually owned by Robert Kraft, who's the chairman and CEO of the Kraft Group, who own, American football team, the New England Patriots, and loads of other American sports teams. This is a huge, absolutely huge owner, worth billions and billions and billions. However, it's probably got the worst team. Now, I say that, putting Florida Mayhem in number 10 and Boston in number 9, that those two teams could easily swap the spot. Now, the problem with Boston is, and the reason why this seen as the worst team is, they kind of don't have the best players. Now, I don't mean that with any disrespect, because these players could actually grow into their position. And actually, that's what Hook, who is the manager of this team, has actually said, or he's the director of esports for the Kraft Group, is that they've selected players looking for the future. Like, maybe they've got players here who nobody really knows too much about, or maybe they've played in lesser teams, but can suddenly sort of pull it together and become a major shock of the Overwatch League. I'm not too sure about that, because it's difficult bringing players together to form new teams in the first place, especially when we look at some of the other teams in this league as we get down the list. So Boston, unfortunately, is a really weak team at the moment. Could be okay. It's certainly one to watch, and it will be interesting watching Boston games, because every time they win, it will be a major upset, because they're almost expected to lose all of their games. So I don't know, you could see them as major underdogs. As for their best player, I think this is a hard one. I think I'm looking forward to seeing the young Korean player they've got called Nico, or Neko. Now, I believe he joined from RX Foxes last year, a Korean team, and he's meant to be pretty good. But again, these are all players I'm not really that familiar with, so we're going to have to wait and see how this turns out. But this is a pretty weak team. Number 8, Shanghai Dragons. Now, this team is owned by NetEase. This is a Chinese internet company that is absolutely massive, and it distributes, wait for it, Blizzard games in China. So maybe a bit of a conflict of interest there. I don't know. But anyway, they own the Shanghai Dragons. Now, they only played one pre-season game, and they lost to Boston 3-2, which is pretty strange, really. I would have expected them to beat Boston, but the problem is this Shanghai Dragons team isn't actually the best Chinese team there is. See, there's a team called Miraculous Youngster, and it would have been simple for Shanghai Dragons to just get Miraculous Youngster and go, well, there you go, this is the Chinese team. But they didn't. Instead, they sort of went for a load of other players, and it's kind of weird. So this could be a team that does really bomb. Like when you look at Florida Mayhem as me saying, you know, they're the worst, Boston fighting for the worst position, Shanghai Dragons, well, Shanghai could easily occupy the worst position as well, with Boston going much further up the list, and Mayhem, if they add good players to their team and sort themselves out. Shanghai Dragons, I think, is a very dubious team at the moment. I am worried about this team, and I don't think it's going to do too well. In terms of their standout players, well, Dia played really well. He had a really good time as Widowmaker on Temple of Anubis during preseason, but yeah, beyond that, I don't know. It's a bit of a weird team, that one is. Number 7, Los Angeles Gladiators. Now, this league spot is owned by Stan and Josh Kroenke, who are the owners of loads of American sports teams, and I think they own Arsenal Football Club as well. So this is a massively wealthy owner as well. So this team is going to have tons and tons of backing. Now, the interesting thing with this team is it caused a massive shock on the preseason in Game 1. They beat London Spitfire. Now, they beat them 3-2, and it was fairly close. They were not expected to beat London Spitfire at all. However, I think this was probably down to the restrictions Blizzard put in place, where they were forcing teams to use all of their players. So London had to put out maybe a weaker team. But the difference is London has 2 teams, and we'll get onto that later on in the video, so I don't want to dwell on that just for now. But it was still a good performance by Gladiators, and a bit of a shock. And they just suddenly came out, beat London. It's like, wow, okay, they're really sort of stamping their foot down here. It's like, hello, we're Gladiators, and we're going to do some work. So that was actually kind of shocking. In terms of the players to look for, I think possibly Shawful. He's an excellent DPS player. He plays a lot of different heroes as well, and he's very entertaining in the way he plays. So yeah, I think Gladiators are a good shout for a mid-table team. Or, well, I say mid-table. I mean, the way the Overwatch League works is there's 2 divisions, and then you go into the playoffs of the divisions, and then you play the winners of those play together, and obviously then you pick the winner of Overwatch League. But if they were all together in one big table, I would put LA Gladiators kind of in mid-table position. I think they'll be an entertaining team to watch, definitely. Number 6. Now, this is San Francisco Shock, and this is higher than I would have initially put them after seeing their performance on the preseason. Now, like I said, preseason is preseason. There were exhibition matches more than anything. The teams didn't really have that much time to play together and practice prior to that, so things should be a lot different when Overwatch League kicks off next week. However, San Francisco Shock, this is owned by Andy Miller. Now, he's the chairman and founder of NRG Esports. Now, NRG has got a lot of very famous backers, people like Shaq and all of those people. They're all part of NRG. So, again, this is a fairly wealthy esports organization. Now, they did shock with preseason. Great performances off Baby Bay helped them demolish Mayhem 3-1. Now, Mayhem were the worst team in preseason by far, so it was a bit of a shock. Like, we were expecting Mayhem to put some sort of a fight up, and they just got absolutely wrecked because they didn't really respond to what San Francisco Shock were doing. And Baby Bay was playing out of his mind, and, well, it was just totally ridiculous. However, they then immediately played straight after that game against Valiant, and they lost in a close 3-2 series. However, note this, the games will not happen like this in Overwatch League. You will not play a series, then immediately play another series. The only reason they had to do this is because Philadelphia did not attend the preseason for a bunch of different reasons. So San Francisco Shock obviously had to fill in the extra game, and I think possibly sold it on another day. So yeah, that won't happen in the previous season. So they were probably fatigued a little bit there. But what's interesting about San Francisco is they had 2 players missing from preseason due to age restrictions. Now, Sinatra, who we know about as the 150k man, he's a very good tracer player, Sinatra is, but he was too young to play in Overwatch League preseason. He's now eligible for Overwatch League. Also, as well, is Super. Now, he'll be available as well. So, actually, this team in preseason had 2 of its key players missing. So, when they can play in the main season, I'm expecting San Francisco to, well, shock people. It sounds very cliche, but I think they will. I think there's capability there, or there's at least the potential for some major upsets from this team. In terms of players that I would watch, I mean, it would probably have to be Sinatra and Dante, 2 extremely good players. So yeah, look out for those guys. Number 5, ladies and gentlemen, we're starting to get into the upper echelons here of my beautiful Overwatch League power rating thing, I guess. Anyway, if you're an Optic fan, this is your team, because this is the team slot owned by Hector Rodriguez of, Optic. He's the CEO. And, they actually lost a very close series in preseason 3-2 to Dallas, who are the other Texas-based team. And then they lost to Seoul Dynasty 2-1. And honestly, I don't think there's any shame in that, because I kind of put both of those teams above Houston anyway. So the fact that they put up a fairly decent fight against those teams was pretty good and pretty optimistic, I think, for the team's future. Now, the thing with Houston is, I've placed them at 5, but San Francisco could potentially take this slot off them, and so could LA Gladiators, potentially. So it's definitely going to be an interesting sort of, I guess, way to see how these players and teams actually develop, because there are a lot of teams are very similar in terms of power. Anyway, as for players to watch, definitely Linkser. He's Finland's gift to esports, ladies and gentlemen. And I think, though, if you shut him down, there's going to be problems for Houston. Like, where else do they go? They don't really have any other kind of major star DPS players, so I don't know. But if you like watching insane DPS play, check Linkser out. Very good on Widowmaker as well. Number 4, LA Valiant. Now, this is owned by Noah Winston, who is the CEO of Immortals, which is an esports organization. They beat San Francisco Shock 3-2 on opening day, and then they beat their main rivals 3-1, who, of course, are LA Gladiators. Now, this is certainly the strongest LA team right now, but not only that, they have potentially the best Genji player in the goddamn world. This is Agilities, but guess what? He wasn't even eligible to play in preseason, so with him being slammed back into the team, that's going to make them even stronger. I think this is the team that will cause major upsets. Like, it has the potential here to beat practically any team. I think on their day, they can beat anybody. If they're firing on all cylinders, it's going to be a problem for the team they're playing against. They've got really good DPS. They've got really good tanks. They've got really good support players. It's definitely a team to watch, this is. Number 3, Dallas Fuel. Now, this team is owned by Team Envious and by Envy investors Hirsch Interactive. Now, Envious were the best Western team in the history of Overwatch, and this is what Dallas Fuel is made of, with 3 additions. It's got Seagull, it's got Custer, it's got XQC. I've no doubt you guys know who Seagull and XQC are. This team has the largest current fan base. This is due to the major celebrities they have on their team. Now, this isn't like a meme team. This isn't like they've just gone out there and gone, oh yeah, this guy's got a big stream, we'll get him in our team. No, Seagull is a phenomenally good player. XQC is a really great tank player. Custer doesn't have a very big following like those other guys, but he's actually Australian, Custer is, and he's an extremely good support player, and he loves Moira as well, and I love Moira, so me and Custer no doubt would get on. So yeah, they've got the best fan base by an absolute mile. But the key thing here is the old Envious were the best Western team ever. And they went to Korea and beat the Koreans, and that has never happened. No team from the West in any esport has gone to Korea and beat Koreans in their own league. They won Apex Season 1. That is a phenomenal achievement. And also, don't forget about Internet Hulk as well, guys. He was involved in that. He's an absolute legend, and it's a shame that we lost him last year, but the guy's an absolute legend, so, you know, rest in peace, my man. What a hero. Also, another key thing here with Dallas is synergy in Overwatch is massive. And you know what? This team has been together for absolutely ages, or at least the core of the team has. When we look at the additions they've got in Seagull, Custer, and XQC, they can kind of swap them out as they go. This is a very flexible team. This is a team capable of pulling off a lot of different strategies. So I think this could go anywhere, right? Dallas could be really good and could compete even for the top slots, for top 1 and 2 slots, or they could have a couple of questionable games and that might drop them down to sort of mid-table power ranking. But as it stands, I think they're definitely the 3rd best team in the league. Like, definitely, and they would give anybody a run for their money. As for players to watch, well, it's got to be Effect. This man is an absolute god, and he carries games like I have never seen people carry games before. He's a Tracer player. Some might say he's the best Tracer player out there, but he is ridiculous. He will just pick Envious up and carry them and just kill the enemy team on his own. And to be able to do that at this level is frankly utterly insane. So definitely watch Effect if you're into DPS play. Number 2, New York Excelsior. These are owned by Jeff Wilpon, the COO of the baseball team, the New York Mets. So again, a huge owner here. They beat Boston 3-1 in preseason, but then they lost to Seoul 3-1, which, was kind of unfortunate. This is an all-Korean team as well. It's super strong, this team is, though. But what's more, this team actually has Flower. Now, if you guys remember the Overwatch World Cup from 2017, Flower was just mind-blowingly good in that. He isn't even able to play in Overwatch League Season 1 because he's too young. So next year, when they get Flower as well, this team is going to be even stronger than it is right now. But not only that, they've actually got fantastic players anyway. In fact, the whole roster is pretty much star-studded. They've got phenomenal players. Again, like in terms of standout players, you want to look at people like Sabiolbi, a ridiculous Tracer player again. But what makes him a little bit different when it comes to other Tracer players is he actively fights and duels the enemy Tracer, and most of the time he wins. Most notably in the Overwatch World Cup, he got Sinatra and just destroyed him. 1v1 just destroyed him, absolutely obliterated him. He doesn't mess around. He is a very high-level player. So this team is definitely a team to watch. It's a very strong team. I will be very shocked if this doesn't finish in the playoffs. Like, very, very shocked. This is a super strong team. Okay, so now we're sort of at the top slot, and you're probably thinking, well, Sty, there's 3 teams left. And there is. And just a quick sort of not applicable, doesn't apply, is, well, Fusion. Now, Philadelphia Fusion is a team that didn't play in preseason, so we're not really too sure how they're actually going to play together. Now, like I said at the start of this video, you can't base everything on preseason, but it gives you a little bit of insight into how the teams will actually play. I think they're probably a good shout for a mid-table team, but I didn't want to include them in this list just because we've not really seen them play, which is a bit of a shame. Number 1, and now you're probably thinking, well, Sty, there's 2 teams left. Well, it's occupied by 2 teams because I'm finding it very difficult to separate these 2 teams. You've got London Spitfire and you've got Seoul Dynasty. Now, let's start with London Spitfire. They're owned by Cloud9. Obviously, Cloud9 is a massive esports organization. However, what makes them interesting is they are made of 2 of the best South Korean teams. They're made of GC Busan and Kongdu Panthera. Now, GC Busan, they did what's known as royal roading. This is where a team comes out of nowhere and literally wins every game and wins the whole Apex tournament like it doesn't care. They destroyed Lunatic High 4-0 on multiple occasions. They destroyed Kongdu Panthera, the other London Spitfire roster, like obliterated them. They were immensely good. However, Spitfire rolled them out for their first game in preseason against Gladiator, and they lost. This was a bit of a shock. It was like, what's going on here? How could this GC Busan roster lose? We're not sure what actually happened there. We don't know how the team's been training or what's been going on with it. However, for their next game, they rolled out Kongdu Panthera, they are very close to Lunatic High's level. You could literally interchange these teams. Kongdu Panthera were very unlucky against Lunatic High in a couple of Apex finals and stuff like that, where Lunatic High just edged them out and just managed to take the win. But there is literally nothing between those 2 teams. However, Kongdu Panthera, Spitfire rolled out that roster essentially. I think there was a couple of other players thrown in as well. And they absolutely obliterated San Francisco Shock 4-0. And it wasn't even close. This was just like, this team is from a different planet, and it has obliterated what is, essentially a mid-strength Overwatch League team, and they just wrecked them. And it was like, well, this is embarrassing. Yes, it's preseason. Yes, there's nothing really on the line, but teams still want to go out there and win. And London absolutely demolished them. It was, frankly, quite sickening to watch. As for players to watch when it comes to London Spitfire, well, I guess you could watch all of them. Fisher is the best tank in the world. If you like Winston and Reinhardt play, especially Winston, but his Reinhardt is amazing as well. You watch Fisher, like it used to be Miro. It used to be everybody would rave about Miro. Fisher has took Winston play to the next level. He's insane. You look at DPS players, you've got Prophet, Birdring, Rascal, Hureg. They're just all insane. Like they're all absolutely ridiculous players. Like Prophet and Birdring on Tracer, ridiculous. Rascal, his McCree is insane. Hureg, crazy. These players are absolutely insane. Literally every player in this team is a world-class player in the slot they play, whether that's support, tanks, or DPS. It is a supremely strong roster. What makes it interesting with this team, though, is if you think of GC Busan and you think of Kongdu Panthera as 2 teams inside Spitfire, imagine those 2 teams scrimming against each other, or those 2 players, like sets of players, fighting for only 6 slots in the Spitfire team. That's going to make them play even better. So on paper, that could actually turn this team into an absolute unstoppable juggernaut. The other team which occupies the first slot, it has to be Seoul Dynasty, because this is Lunatic High. This is the most successful Overwatch team there ever has been. They've won the most Apex series in South Korea. They are like the best team. You like, if you were to compile a list of the best Overwatch teams from history, they would be at the top because they've won a lot of games. Yes, you can put Kongdu Panthera close to them, like I have done with the Spitfire explanation I just gave, but Kongdu didn't win the tournaments. Lunatic High won the tournaments. They are the best team. So this team is owned by Kevin Chu, or Kevin Chow or Chu. Apologies if I've mispronounced your name there, my good man. And he's the chairman and CEO of KSV Esports. Now, this is a company which has been picking up a lot of very high-profile teams. I think they own a very high-profile League of Legends team as well. I think it might be Samsung's old team. I think they possibly bought them. But this is an all-Korean roster as well. This is Lunatic High, as I've said, best Overwatch team that ever has been. For pre-season, they played 3 games. They beat Shanghai 4-0. They beat Houston 2-1, and then they beat New York 3-1, which, you know, just says, hey, we're a really good team. Try and take us on, and you can't, because they are super, super strong. Now, what is interesting is GC Busan, who make up half of the Spitfire roster, did destroy Lunatic High twice in Apex. So there is potential there for Spitfire to sort of smash Seoul and Seoul to smash Spitfire. Like, I think this is the main rivalry when it comes to who's going to win the Overwatch League. It's going to be definitely between Seoul and Spitfire. If it's not, I will be very shocked. In terms of players to watch, though, for Seoul, I mean, again, you can just watch the whole team, but they do have 2 standout players in my mind. They've got Ru Jae-hong, who is the best support player in the world. This player is insane. If you are a support player, watch this man. I can't even explain half the things he does. It is just on another planet, in another galaxy. He's like, I mean, if you were to put a list together of the best Overwatch players in the world, you probably would put this person at the top. Like, he's just ridiculous, like absolutely mental on every conceivable level. But they've also got a player called Zumba, who I think is the best flex player there is. Extremely good on Soldier 76, extremely good on D.Va, extremely good on Zarya. It's very rare that you see players like that can play those heroes at the highest goddamn level. Fantastic players. But like I said, just watch the whole team. It's very much like Spitfire. Watch the whole team. The players are just ridiculous on those teams. So there you go, guys. This has been a breakdown of all of the Overwatch League teams. I've gone into a lot of detail here. Hopefully this gives you guys a bit of an insight into the teams. We'll get to see more next week when all of this goes live. But I would be very surprised if Spitfire or Dynasty don't actually win the whole thing. But you never know with Overwatch. Anything can happen. You look at the World Cup. You know, I look at the UK team from the World Cup last year, and we didn't even lose a game in the qualifiers. We beat a team called Flash Wolves, who were Chinese Taipei. They were expected to beat us, but we beat them. So anything is possible. I mean, hell, you might see Boston beat Spitfire. You might see, I don't know, Florida Mayhem beat New York Excelsior. I don't know. Literally anything could happen. But hopefully this has given you guys a little bit of an insight to the Overwatch League. All right, guys. I've been Stylosa, and this is Unit Lost. I could literally sit here and talk all day about this stuff, but I'm going to try and not do that because my throat is still destroyed. But anyway, you can follow me on Twitter, guys, which is @UnitLostGaming. Do let me know which Overwatch League team you are going to support. And yeah, you can join the Discord, which is discord.gg/UnitLost, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Toodaloo.